Really, the history of AEC started in Europe, actually, in Sweden more specifically in the 1920s with the manufacturing and processing of that, the development and production of that, and the patenting of it more or less happened during that time. And that technology really took hold in terms of the building, and from a construction standpoint, that really is more of like the mass type of construction there, and it's tried and true there in Europe. And coming back over to the United States at some point just recently, and that's where the idea really developed for Navajo FlexCrete to really take that AEC technology and improve upon it. And how to improve upon it was really take some of the core ideas of AEC and transfer it over, but also in addition to a few of the components, fiber reinforced concrete is what we come up with today. The fiber reinforcement as well as an additive that's recycled, it's a fly ash component that's added to it. So those are some of the things that really FRAC has developed on, and the history of it tied being to AEC. Navajo FlexCrete is 100% owned by the Navajo Housing Authority. Our operations, we're located in Page, Arizona. We have quality assurance procedures in place and plans. We do all of our quality testing right on site. Our mission is really to provide quality products, excel in customer service, provide engineering support, and really start to formulate in-the-field training of construction crews as well. What is fiber reinforced aerated concrete? The Navajo FlexCrete technology is really based on fly ash. The fly ash acts as a natural pozzolan, and fly ash is actually a byproduct of the coal burning industry, and it's readily available actually 3 miles down from the plant there in Page, Arizona. The fiber is really the difference in the technology that's as compared to AEC products. And FRAC technology, fiber reinforced aerated concrete, from the fiber standpoint, we really have added benefits. The product itself is chemically activated rather than baked through an autoclave, and that itself is one thing that's different in how this product technology differs from AEC. Navajo FlexCrete, from a processing standpoint, we receive our dry goods, such as the cement, the fiber, and the fly ash. The dry goods and the materials being in the silos are hopped into the manufacturing area. Mixed with the wet materials, and from there the wet material ingredient is added to a 2-foot by 4-foot by 20-foot deep pan or mold, which we call. And the mold itself is filled out to about half the height of the wet material and is agitated on this big large bed that it sits on. And from that standpoint, once it's agitated, that begins the activation process and the aeration process, and from there the hydration process really takes over. And from that standpoint, it actually takes about 25 minutes or so for that half loaf to rise to a full loaf there. And once that does happen, it's taken into a curing room, and it's left in the curing room for about 24 to 48 hours, depending on the weather and the climate that we have currently there. From that standpoint, once it's cured, it's taken to the demold area in our facility. We take off the sides and we actually extract the loaf from the mold and put it on the sawing line, which goes through our sawmill. And we get our building blocks out of that sawing mill, and that material is palletized and shipped out into the field, equaling construction, and there you go, we have a home in the field. There's real aerated quality about Navajo FlexCrete and the fiber reinforced aerated concrete in general. That aeration is really a benefit, really gives the product itself its insulation factor. One of the things that it's when you take a look at the cellular structure of FRAC, it really is a closed cellular structure. And from that standpoint, it really doesn't allow penetration of water. Because it's inorganic, it doesn't allow organic materials to make its way through there, such as mold and those type of things as well too. So from a standpoint, the cellular structure of FRAC is really one of the benefits of the material itself. Navajo FlexCrete is actually a very lightweight material. It only weighs about the 1/5 of normal concrete. From a density standpoint, you're looking at only 32 pounds per cubic foot of concrete in terms of the normal density. Now, I'm going to put this in water, and actually it's going to float in here. as you can see. Now we could leave that there for a couple of days, and if we took a cross-section of that piece of Navajo FlexCrete in the water, you would see that the water would only have penetrated about less than 1/4 of an inch. So from that standpoint, the characteristic and the light weight of Navajo FlexCrete will really translate to ease of installation in the field. From a philosophy standpoint, one of the things that Navajo FlexCrete really does is to really embrace this idea and notion of sustainability. And that idea of sustainability really sort of goes back to the roots of Native American culture and philosophy as well too. One of the things that really sort of takes hold of the idea of sustainability, and it comes from the Navajo culture, is a phrase, "Hajona Shadolech," and that means to may I walk in beauty and harmony with my surroundings and my environment. And so that really is sort of the core principle behind sustainability, and a lot of Native communities, all Native communities, really identify very well with that idea. The sustainable model looks like you have got social aspects of it, environmental aspect of it, and an economic aspect of it. And that's sort of what you call your triple bottom line. That's what sustainability is looked at from an English standpoint. From a Native perspective, an idea about how Navajos view sustainability, and sort of is more or less taken from a viewpoint of a Navajo Hogan within a family. As you can see from this diagram, the Navajo sustainability, as it revolves in terms of a Hogan, the mother really is focused as the matriarch of the family, and she holds the wealth in the Native culture. She's the matriarch and is really the holder of the wealth in the community. Now the father is the purveyor of the culture in the community. He holds the wisdom in that community, in that family composition. And now the children raised in that environment, they represent the environment of that family and that community as well too. As things are happening, or as ceremonies go in the Navajo traditional dwelling, Hogan, we have social aspects and arenas, and each of these different areas, the mother has their area within the Hogan during that ceremony, the father as well as the children, and as well as the community members. The visitors, they represent the social aspect of that community itself. So that really ties back into Native people's idea of sustainability design, and as I mentioned, the triple bottom line being economics, environmental, and social. Native people really view sustainability with the underlying component, it's an extra component, which is culture. And so from that standpoint, really cultural is one of the foremost arenas that's added to that. So we kind of refer that to the quadruple bottom line from a Native viewpoint of sustainability. So from the standpoint of sustainability and how that affects Navajo FlexCrete on several different levels, and as you can see from this matrix, we really look at different things from people, planet, profit, and place. And they touch different parts of our society, the Navajo Nation, the Navajo Housing Authority, to public companies, how the AC industry in general, the green building providers out there, and the employees of our company themselves, as well as Navajo FlexCrete. They all benefit at some form throughout this matrix, and that's what we're trying to accomplish here, is really to make sure this company follows that sustainability model to the core. Some of the advantages of Fiber Reinforced Aerated Concrete are it's energy efficient, fire resistant, very durable, provides acoustic insulation, it's environmentally sound, it's easy to use, and it's pest resistant. Some of the energy efficient qualities of Navajo FlexCrete, we have a very high R value. It provides thermal mass, it's airtight, it can reduce HVAC requirements, and reduces energy consumption as a whole. From an energy efficient standpoint, a study done by Oak Ridge National Laboratories actually constructed a 10-inch AAC wall. Externally, they painted the wall black, and they had it facing the outside towards the sun. And over a 24-hour period, the black surface that was facing the sun rose to 180-degree temperature externally. The AAC wall itself, on the interior side, the temperature did only fluctuated by 2 degrees at that point. And that's from the standpoint of energy efficiency, that's one of the benefits of using Navajo FlexCrete. Their Arizona State University Stardust Center for Affordable Homes actually conducted a research study and compared Navajo FlexCrete block walls to SIPS panels and to 6-inch frame construction, stud frame construction, and to different widths of adobe. And it compared very well, if you can take a look at the chart here and look at that composition and the energy consumption per wall type. Navajo FlexCrete, through their partners, Arizona State University, and through the Startup Center again, conducted research on the Naizi home and really compared how the energy consumption of the Navajo FlexCrete home compared to a regular stud frame construction. Through 1 year, they measured the utility costs of the heating, cooling, and lighting, and really compared that to a standard stick frame home. And over that, as you can see through the graph, really ended up being about twice as much in terms of utility costs for the standard stick frame home as compared to Navajo FlexCrete, which was about half, roughly half of that cost. The other benefits from Navajo FlexCrete and the product material itself is it's fire resistant. A 4-inch wall actually has a 4-hour fire rating through UL, and the 6-inch wall actually has a 4-hour fire rating as well. Both the 6-inch wall being load bearing and the 4-inch wall being non-load bearing.
In this demonstration, I want to show the fire-resistant qualities that Navajo FlexCrete blocks have to offer. And by doing so, I want to torch this 1-inch thick block here with the torch. And as I'm doing it, you're not going to see any vapors or any gases or any smoke coming from the block. And I also won't be able to feel the heat transferring through the block. Keep in mind that this torch is going to be burning at 1900 degrees on the block. So as you can see, the block is turning red hot, but I'm not feeling any heat going through. And on my other hand, and there's also no smoke, no vapors or gases coming from the block. So the block turned red hot, but there was no vapors or no smoke coming from it. And also I did not feel any heat in the back of the block.
From a durability standpoint as well, Navajo FlexCrete, it's very durable, doesn't warp or decay. Life cycle costs are reduced because basically a concrete home from that standpoint is very durable. It's been used successfully throughout the world. From an acoustical standpoint, the insulation value really adds to that, the value to making sure that the structure you build out of Navajo FlexCrete really has acoustical efficiency. It's got an STC value rating of 48 through an 8-inch FlexCrete wall. It benefits certainly multi-use structures such as apartment buildings and that type, as well as just in general gives to a much more quieter home.
In this demonstration, I want to show the sound absorption qualities that Navajo FlexCrete blocks have to offer. And doing so, there's this alarm in the middle of this block here, and I'm going to push it, and you're going to hear it, and then you're going to hear a difference. In this demonstration, we used a 4-inch thick cap here that was unmortared here. Typically, your walls would be at least an 8-inch thick FlexCrete block with joints fully mortared, resulting in a much quieter wall system.
Navajo FlexCrete, from an environmental standpoint, has a lot of attributes. It's recognized as a green building material. It definitely aids in the LEED's design. There's a leadership in energy efficient design. Again, it's mold resistant, it's inorganic, and it's breathable. It doesn't release any toxics and it doesn't have any off-gassing, and it promotes indoor air quality, and it's very efficient as well. One of the additional questions we usually get related to environmental attributes, because our recycled material is actually fly ash, and we always get asked the question about its toxicity and how does that relate to the material and it being potentially toxic. We actually had Arizona State University provide us a report on that, and they studied the qualities of the material itself, and really we got that report back from them.
But I need to emphasize several things. The material may be new, but it's an evolutionary phase from aerated products, autoclaved aerated products, which have been used in Europe for about 70, 80 years, and in the US for the last 20 to 30 years. So we're now moving away and using materials that don't need the autoclave process. Autoclaving, by the way, is a process that the materials are baked in an oven under high pressure and high temperature, and it consumes a lot of energy. So what we are using is a blend of Portland cement and also fly ash, which is a byproduct of coal burning power plants. And a lot of people may have concerns as far as what's in the fly ash and whether it has any potential problems from a human health point of view. My answer to that is absolutely not, because the type of fly ash that we use, first of all, meets the specifications for use in concrete products. So in a way, every concrete product that is being used, I would say with a very high degree of certainty, contains fly ash. Departments of Transportation, in all their projects and all the concretes that they specify, they require the cement to be replaced by fly ash up to somewhere about 25 to even 30%. Fly ash can be used up to 50% in replacing the concrete because it's sustainable, because it makes the concrete durable, and it's a product that has been used for more than at least 50 years. And it's been known that concrete that doesn't have fly ash is going to have a whole host of other problems, such as corrosion, such as long-term durability aspects. So fly ash, it's a good product that has been used, and we're benefiting from the use of fly ash. Also, the fly ash, although it's a byproduct of coal burning power plant, it goes through standard ASTM procedures that specifies the quality, the chemical composition, any kind of metals that may prohibit us from the use of fly ash. They're all tested. So what we specify and what we use in the production of FlexCrete is basically, it should meet all the specifications from health, hazard, and also long-term performance of the concrete, because the material is in a way used by other agencies. As I mentioned, Caltrans requires it. The state of California requires all the concrete to have at least 25%. You couldn't sell concrete in California if it didn't have fly ash. And we're using exactly the same fly ash that's basically the same quality of material as being shipped to California or shipped to Phoenix on rail cars. So at this point, I would say I have no problem with the quality, and actually the quality of the fly ash class F that we obtained from Navajo Generating Station, it's quite high and it's very much in demand. That would, in a way, address the point. We've done the chemical analysis. We continue to do chemical analysis on the raw material that is being used as a kind of, in a way, periodic type of a test to make sure that everything meets the specified values that we have.
One of the other benefits from using Navajo FlexCrete is leadership in energy efficient design. Some of those categories that we certainly would help your project gain points that are offered, two in particular that pertain to local recycled content at 10% and 20% post-consumer. And so that certainly, Navajo FlexCrete is made of 60% fly ash, and so that would easily qualify your project for getting 2 lead points in that regard. The other area that we can help you attain points and leads, certainly 2 are offered for material resource credit 5.1 and 5.2, which is really talks about regional materials within a 500-mile radius. And if your project's located within 500-mile radius of Page, Arizona, your project can qualify for those 2 leads. And there's certainly other points available as well that Navajo FlexCrete can help you attain lead credits. It makes a lot of sense to look at Navajo FlexCrete for your project. Navajo FlexCrete is pest resistant. The material is inorganic, and from a construction standpoint, it is a very solid material that offers no wall cavities, and so there's hardly any opportunity for any types of pests to bore themselves. So it's termite resistant and mold resistant, very pest resistant from that standpoint as well.
As a contractor specializing in aerated concrete for over 10 years, Navajo FlexCrete allows me to offer my clients an amazing product with so many amazing attributes, starting from fire, sound, insulation, and thermal characteristics.
One main difference that we have in the design with the FlexCrete blocks is the fact that when we test the material in the laboratory, we can see a clear distinction between a standard block, let's say aerated concrete block, and a FlexCrete type of block. And that clearly shows in a flexural type of a test, where you actually try to crack and fail a sample. What we realize is that when we test it, because of the fact that we have fibers there, the fibers provide a bridging effect. In other words, a crack forms and we see the crack, but then the fibers are acting like Band-Aid and they're holding the cracks well together. That would have several implications. The good part of it is, well, let's talk about the bad part. The bad part is that you would look at the block and you would see certain fine hairline type of cracks throughout. And that would caution somebody who wants to see a perfectly plain an uncracked type of a material. So from a psychological point of view, somebody might say that, oh, it has cracks. But the key parameter in here is that that block has fibers, and the fibers are holding everything together, and those cracks are so fine and the fibers can carry the load, because we can clearly see when we do a simple block test that although the surface has a lot of cracks, when you load it, it carries significant amount of load. Why? Because the fibers are there to provide for the crack and hold the crack together. Even when we go to a full-scale wall test, we would see a lot of cracks, diagonal shear cracks forming, but still the fibers activate and they carry the load, which means that the purpose of the material in order to carry the load is still fulfilled, although you see some kind of a cracks. I need to mention that not any material with cracks is suitable, because if you take, for example, a masonry block and drop it from your waist down, it hits the ground and it shatters. But with a FlexCrete type of a block, you can try it and you would see that no matter how many times you drop it, because of the fact that the material is ductile, it has about 1,000 times more energy absorption capacity than an unreinforced aerated concrete or a masonry block. So that is the energy absorption capacity that's built into the material that provides us with long-term ductility, long-term temperature changes, because as the sun hits the wall and it expands or contracts, the material is going to see a lot of stress, but then you have built-in ductility in the material that resists. That ductility also comes into play when there is wind gusts. It comes into play when there is earthquake or hurricane. So any kind of a deformation that's imposed on the structure is basically addressed by means of fiber reinforcement that we have. And this is an area that has been going on for the last 40 or 50 years. We've been looking at the area of fiber reinforcement to make composite materials, and the FlexCrete type products provide perfect example of how using fibers you increase the ductility, you increase the energy absorption capacity, and you can actually quantify the performance. Therefore, the type of surface cracks that we see, which are natural because the material shrinks, and as it shrinks, it would undergo the type of cracking that we observe, that is not a concern, because it's been tested and it's been verified in the cracked state, and we see that although it shows some cracks, it is still far outperforms any other type of a material that we would have.
Unlike AAC, Navajo FlexCrete gains its structural strength from the millions of fibers associated in its design mix. Navajo FlexCrete offers two product lines, FRAC 2, which has a minimum compression strength of 290 psi with a dry density of 22 to 34 pounds per cubic foot. And they also offer a FRAC 3 with a minimum compression strength of 435 psi, dry density of 28 to 34 pounds per cubic foot. Navajo FlexCrete products are tested in accordance with ASTM C1693, which is the testing procedures for autoclave aerated concrete. Navajo FlexCrete blocks are designed using the same procedures that are used for AAC blocks. Navajo FlexCrete also has an ICC ES report which outlines the design procedures for Navajo FlexCrete. Navajo FlexCrete ICC ES report directs the block design procedures in accordance to ACI 530 and TMS 402. FlexCrete blocks can be used in moderate seismic areas in accordance to the international building codes and the international residential codes. Navajo FlexCrete provides engineering and technical support and services through their consultant, Babbitt Nelson Engineering. An extensive library of construction and installation details are available for download both in PDF and AutoCAD formats. Some of the services Navajo FlexCrete offers include installation and construction services, technical design manuals, project feasibility assessments, engineering referral and management, construction document adaptation, and crew training.
Oh,
We have highlighted some of the key points of Navajo FlexCrete blocks. Please visit our website for additional information. We have available for download an extensive technical manual, construction details, and project photos. Also, feel free to contact any of our technical representatives for assistance.